Natural hazards come in all shapes and sizes, from tropical storms to earthquakes, floods to tornadoes. But what actually is the definition of a natural hazard? What are the different types, and what factors can affect the risk of natural hazards? These are the questions we'll be taking a look at today on today's episode of
Geography Rocks.
Let's start with the definition of a natural hazard. A natural hazard is a naturally occurring event that has the potential to cause harm to people, property, or the environment. Now, the key word here is potential, meaning there is a risk of, but not a guarantee of, death, injury, or destruction. You can have a volcano erupt, but it could be quite small in scale. You can have a tornado tear through an empty field. They both carry the, quote, potential to cause harm, making them natural hazards. If the hazard does unfortunately harm people or destroy built infrastructure, we could then class these hazards as natural disasters. These are the ones we usually hear and read about on the news, as they can be catastrophic. We will see death, injury, and destruction with a natural disaster. There are four main types of hazards: tectonic, atmospheric, geomorphological, and biological. We can then classify any hazard into a primary hazard or a secondary hazard. We'll look into that in a moment. Firstly, tectonic hazards are caused by the tectonic processes happening deep underground. Take a look at the next episode to learn more about this. Put simply, the movement occurring under the Earth's crust leads to tectonic hazards such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Secondly, we then have atmospheric hazards. These are hazards created by changes up in the Earth's atmosphere. Put simply, these are weather hazards. Heavy precipitation, strong winds, high or low temperature swings could all fall into the atmospheric hazard category. Examples of atmospheric hazards are tropical storms, droughts, blizzards, tornadoes, to name a few. Next up are geomorphological hazards. It's a bit of a mouthful to say, but don't let that intimidate you. Breaking down the word, geo means earth, and morph means to change shape. Putting these together, it simply means the change of the Earth's surface. So any hazard that changes shape upon the surface of the Earth would fall into this category. Landslides and avalanches are some examples. Be careful not to get these mixed up with tectonic hazards. Remember, tectonic hazards are triggered underground. Geomorphological are changes on the Earth's surface. You'd be right in thinking that tectonic hazards could then trigger a geomorphological hazard. The shaking of an earthquake could cause an avalanche. Finally, we have biological hazards. Think about your biology lessons. What do you study in this subject? Plants, cells, anatomy. Bio means living, so biological hazards are living hazards. Locust swarms tearing through a community, eating large swaths of crops, can lead to famine. Mosquitoes carry vector-borne diseases such as Zika and malaria, killing hundreds of thousands of people globally each year. Many of us lived through the COVID pandemic and were impacted greatly by this hazard socially and economically. All of these are biological hazards and can be incredibly dangerous at large scale. We mentioned earlier that many hazards could then be split further into primary or secondary hazards. Primary means first, and secondary means, well, second. A primary hazard is the first hazard. A secondary hazard is then a hazard triggered by the effects of the primary hazard. We mentioned earlier an earthquake, which is a primary hazard, could shake the ground and trigger an avalanche, a secondary hazard. Another example could be an underwater volcanic eruption triggering a tsunami. The primary eruption causes the secondary flooding from a tsunami. A final example could be a storm bringing high volumes of precipitation. This saturates the soil, leading to an increased risk of mass movement, such as a mudslide. Pause the video now and see if you can come up with your own primary hazards, leading into secondary hazards. Drop a comment down below with your examples. In this final section of the video, we're going to take a look at the factors that can affect the hazard risk. There are many physical or natural factors and many human factors that can increase or decrease the potential risk of a hazard. Today we're going to focus on just four. They are urbanization, climate change, poverty, agriculture. You may notice all of these are human factors, but there are many physical factors too, such as the length of time the hazard lasts, the intensity or magnitude, the proximity to population centers, the geology of the surrounding area. There's many more out there, so again, let us know in the comments what you think they could be. Now back to the four human factors we're focusing on today, starting with urbanization. Urbanization is the increase in the proportion of people living in towns and cities. This results in a higher population density, meaning more people are living in a given area, often surrounded by many more taller buildings and infrastructure. If a hazard were to hit an urban environment compared to a rural area, there are simply more people and things that could potentially be put in harm's way, increasing the hazard risk. More buildings to collapse on top of people, more homes to be flooded, more reconstruction needed in the recovery phase after the hazard. Urbanization increases the risk to the social, economic, and environmental factors. Climate change is our next factor that can increase hazard risk. As humans continue to emit higher rates of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, this leads to the enhanced greenhouse effect. Solar radiation that would normally reflect back into space pings back down due to the changes of gases in the atmosphere, trapping more solar radiation, leading to an increase in temperatures. This is leading to climate change. Weather patterns are becoming abnormal. The intensity of tropical storms are increasing. We're seeing longer periods without rainfall in some parts of the world, and in others, too much, leading to floods. As these extreme weather events become more common and intense around the globe, the hazard risk on communities and ecosystems will continue to rise. Next, poverty, or to be more precise, a country's level of development can increase or decrease hazard risk. Depending on a nation's wealth, the quality of building materials, the built infrastructure, and the funding for defenses and response training may or may not be there. If a country is a low-income country, LIC, otherwise known as a less economically developed country, LEDC, many people may be living in poor quality housing with little education. The government spending may not be focused on flood defense, as these are expensive, and funding needs to go to more pressing issues in their society. Whereas a high-income country, HIC, otherwise known as a more economically developed country, MEDC, would have a higher GDP per capita, and with that, more money in their economy. Education rates are higher, so people would have a better chance at preparing for a hazard. Homes are built out of better quality materials, so they can withstand more adverse weather or shaking during an earthquake. Ultimately, a nation's level of development means they have more funds available for better monitoring and prediction of hazards, with more resources to plan and protect against them, leading to a lower hazard risk compared to an LIC. Finally, agriculture can increase hazard risk through deforestation and overuse of the land. Soil erosion from aggressive farming practices can wash away into riverbeds, increasing the flood risk. Deforestation removes a vital buffer between the atmosphere above and the ground below. Removing the tree canopy reduces interception of rainfall, resulting in more precipitation hitting the ground quicker, raising the flood risk further. In other parts of the world, the aggressive clearing of rainforests through slash and burn to access more fertile soil can cause forest fires, which can spread out of control. As the global population increases, and so too does our demand for food to feed everyone, agricultural practices show no sign in slowing down, and with it, the increasing risk of hazards. Thanks for watching this episode of Geography Rocks. Join us next time as we move onwards in the Tectonic Hazard unit, exploring what causes earthquakes and volcanoes to form as we look at the layers of the Earth.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.